And what's going on, guys? I'm your host, Phil Daru. This is the Daru Strong Podcast, episode number 011. We're getting up there. I swear I'm doing plenty of these. We got plenty more to go. I'm trying to make 1,000. I'm trying to get on Joe Rogan status. But today I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Danny Wilson, a sports scientist and strength and conditioning coach out of the UK. He works with a ton of boxers. I got the opportunity to meet Danny as he came to one of my seminars in London, and I can honestly say he has his hands on some of the best opportunities when it comes down to getting the boxers in the best physical condition. He has a lab there that he tests the guys out on, and again, very knowledgeable, understands the process and understands the sport. So we had a good conversation about how he programs, about the other certain types of myths out there and misnomers on strength and conditioning for boxing in general. So I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Now, before we get into the conversation with Danny, I want to make sure I shout out the sponsors. Make sure you guys go check out Revive MD, ReviveSups.com. You can check out my only Phil Daru Athlete Stack, my only supplementation line that I utilize, my personal stack for myself, for my athletes. You can get that over on ReviveSups.com, and make sure you use the discount code DaruStrong20 at your checkout so you can get 20% off your complete buy, okay? Also, I want to make sure that you guys go on to my YouTube channel. The new YouTube channel for the Daru Strong Podcast is now available. You can check out this video right here if you guys want to watch my beautiful mug and the guys that I have on or girls that I have on. And also make sure that you go and subscribe so you can get a brand new free MMA strength and conditioning program, completely free, off-season, 6 weeks of complete training through the entire 6 weeks to get you ready for your camps. All right, and that's completely free. All you have to do is go subscribe to the Daru Strong Podcast channel. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk to Danny. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Daru Strong Podcast. Daru Strong Podcast.
Let's go. Mind over matter. Put your mind somewhere else and keep going. That little voice in your head is trying to stop you from getting to where you want to be. Be successful and keep moving forward.
With your host and world-renowned strength and conditioning coach, Phil Daru.
Welcome, everybody, to the Daru Strong Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Daru. Today, I have my guy all the way from England, Mr. Danny Wilson from BoxingScience. What's going on, Danny?
Hi, Phil. All good. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
So tell me a little bit something. I see the background there. What's going on? Are you exempt from going into the living room, or what's going on there?
We're doing a podcast special in bed with Danny Wilson.
That's perfect, man.
I'm in lockdown. I'm just in a flat. So my partner, she is working from home. Mm-hmm. I've been banned from the living room whilst I'm doing this.
That's all good, man. I know we all are on lockdown right now, so it's good to catch up with you. You know, obviously we're very busy people, so I do appreciate you coming on and talking a little shop with me. So go ahead, for the people that don't know, which you should by now, let's go over your background, you know, how you got started, and also talk about BoxingScience and all the things that you're doing there with all the boxers over in the UK.
Yep, great. So to introduce myself, my name's Danny Wilson. I'm a UKCA strength and conditioning coach based in Sheffield in the UK. And I am the co-founder of BoxingScience and RedZoneRunning. I mainly work with boxers, amateur and professional, but also work with amateur youth golfers as well. And to give you a bit of background, I'll say where Sheffield is, because I'm imagining a lot of your listeners don't actually know where Sheffield is. They only heard of London and Manchester. We're closer to Manchester than London. And Sheffield is like known as the Steel City. It's known for basically producing steel, and it's got a huge sporting culture. The first football team, or you'd say soccer, the first ever football team in the world was found there. We've got two very average professional football teams. We've got one of the best ice hockey teams in the country. Obviously not as good as the ones in America, but it's a massive boxing city. So we are like the third ranked boxing city in the UK, based off like people to active boxers ratio. We come third to Liverpool and Hull, which are big boxing cities. We're more famous for professional boxers such as Kell Brook and Prince Nazim Hamed. If you've never seen Prince Nazim Hamed before, you need to go and watch out his highlight reel. But also, this is like kind of filtered down, like Prince Nazim Hamed, like were absolutely massive, made people like me get interested in boxing. I was like about 5 or 6 when he was at his peak, so I had like his annual. I wanted to go and watch all his fights and everything like that. But that filtered down to a massive boxing community. Not only that, we have the English Institute of Sport in Sheffield, which is host to GB Boxing, which is our Olympic boxing program. We have England Boxing, BoxingScience are involved with as well. And also Anthony Joshua trains there as well, so he's the heavyweight champion of the world. So that gives you a background of the kind of city that I'm from. I studied there, Sheffield University, did my degrees there in sport and exercise science. I did my bachelor's and my master's. And with the location, gave me fantastic opportunities to get involved with sport. So we mentioned the football team, Sheffield United, who are in the Premier League at the moment. I went there, started getting into strength and conditioning there, building my craft. And then I was in a whole range of different sports, such as like rugby league, basketball, and golf as well. But I always wanted to get into boxing. That's the main kind of reason why I got into strength and conditioning. When I was younger, I romanticized about the Rocky training. So when I saw I watched Rocky 1 to 4 at a young age, and we're going out running, doing hundreds of sit-ups, wanting to get abs like Rocky. And it was only until about 2010, 2011, when I fully started getting into boxing, watching it. I knew all the big names in the UK, heard of Floyd Mayweather and everything like that, but I really started getting into it, and I started watching about the training. I saw Alex Ariza working with Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan, and I just saw him and just went, that's exactly what I want to do. So that's why I got into strength and conditioning in the first place, but there wasn't that opportunity there. So that's why I went to get my experience in different sports with the view to be working in boxing. In 2012, I started working with the student boxer in the gym. I basically volunteered my services to get some experience, start building up my network within boxing. And then I started working with an amateur boxing club, Sheffield City ABC, and started doing some research, started inviting more amateur boxing gyms to a regular strength and conditioning program, and kind of started growing through word of mouth, started getting professional boxers in, started BoxingScience, where we did our website, started doing a lot more stuff on social media, started working with professional boxers, and leading on to start working with some more high profile boxers. So my big break was really working with Kell Brook. Started working with him in bits in 2015, but my main big break was when he took on Gennady Golovkin in 2016. Had to jump up 2 weight divisions, and we put in a strength and conditioning program to help adapt to that massive jump in weight. And from there, we did such a good job with him. We started getting more and more boxers coming through our doors. I've probably worked with over 100 boxers, professional and amateur, either through testing or training, and that ranges from boxers just having their first bout to obviously world champions such as Kell Brook. So it's been a good journey so far. I'm very appreciative. I absolutely love the job. Can't wait for this lockdown to be over. So I'm back in the gym training the champs.
Yeah, man. So we met each other in London. You attended my seminar, but I was extremely happy to see you because I was looking to pick your brain on a couple of things. So this is why I brought you onto the podcast, because we see, things in similar views. Now with Cal, what was your approach going into it? Because it was a big fight. It's probably one of your first times working with him, correct? So what exactly was the start of? How did you get him in the gym? What happened after that? Did you do the assessment? And then from there, what was the protocols going into the fight itself?
Yeah, so with Cal, when like this is the reason why I started getting into boxing, strength and conditioning, saw that opportunity, because Kel started working with Sheffield Hallam University, working with Alan Ruddock, who's my business partner at BoxingScience. He's a physiologist. You should definitely get him on the podcast, by the way. Yep. One of the smartest guys I've ever met, or probably is the smartest guy I ever met. And Dave Hember was his strength and conditioning coach, and they trained him up to him winning his world title in 2014. And then he had a few fights where he probably neglected strength and conditioning in a way, or didn't feel like he needed it, prioritized different things. So I didn't just get him kind of as this new athlete that's never done strength and conditioning before. He already done some fantastic work with Dave Hember, with Alan Ruddock, as well as coach Dominic Ingle was very switched on to how to train athletes physically. So I had a really good athlete to work with. The main thing is that he was going to be performing at a much higher weight. So he, I don't know whether you have more of a MMA crowd, but Kel was at welterweight, which is 147, and he went up to middleweight, which is 160. And we wanted to try and be as big as possible, but maintain that speed as well. Yeah. So we had to come up with a plan in being at middleweight, maintaining his speed, because speed was going to be a massive advantage. Try and increase his strength at the same time, but also become accustomed to being in the ring. As probably is going to be about 10 pounds heavier. It was probably 16 pounds in terms of making weight, but probably if you go from his welterweight fighting weight, obviously rehydrates massively, to is in performing at middleweight, it was probably a 10-pound difference, but over a 12-round distance, that'd be a massive contributing factor. So we had to deal with his muscles' ability to deal with high intensity, high lactate production. So we did the 30-second max out sprints.
Those suck, by the way. They suck.
Yeah. Well, for us coaches, maybe not for the athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had to do that, and plus we only had 9 weeks to prepare for it. A massive challenge. So we had to look at all these adaptations and the quickest way in being able to do it without injuring him, without overtraining him as well. So we did the 30-second max out sprints, and we also paired that up with some heat therapy after it. So we got him in the hot bath for around about 30 minutes. And this is basically prolonging the signaling pathways from his conditioning session. So we're kind of getting them extra 1-5% on top of that session. We also did a muscle buffering phase, where it's controlling that acidosis, where we actually developed a totally new running method. So the data, what the research suggests is to do 2 minutes on, 3 minutes off, and to have a target lactate of between 10 and 12 millimole. But I knew that Kel would be relying on his speed and working in high intensity bursts, getting out of the way of Golovkin. And I think he'd be more adaptable if we were doing some faster paced stuff. So when I was out in Fuerteventura, which is in Spain, for a training camp, Alan was testing out a method to get in between them target lactate zones at a faster pace. So he put his body on the line for science. So the main running protocol that we did when we were back in the UK was the muscle buffering, 12 seconds on, 48 seconds off, continuous. We do 15 repetitions, and we build that up to 25 repetitions. So it's taking speeds of 25, 26 kilometers an hour, keeping that consistent. And we're monitoring his lactate every third repetition to see how he's controlling that lactate and trying to keep him within those zones. If he's understimulated and his lactate isn't going up, we tell him to keep going. We tell him to maybe increase it, up the gears. If his lactate is going out of control, we tell him to take it down a few gears. So we're 100% controlling it, because we don't want to like kind of overload the athlete. If it goes out of that kind of muscle buffering zone, then we're not learning how to control it. So they were our main conditioning models. In terms of strength, we use velocity-based training to make sure that it was getting that speed. We build up them foundations, because I knew that it wasn't doing a lot of strength conditioning before. So we built up the foundations first towards around about 90% max, 1 rep max. And then most of the work was around about anywhere between 75 to 85% 1 rep max, using very easy lifts such as rack Romanian deadlift, low technical demand, but he really excelled in producing force in that. So it wasn't the result that we were after, but I think he shocked quite a few people on his performance. Obviously he had to retire because of an injury, but everybody kind of like stood up and took notice of that, because it was highly documented on Sky Sports, because it was weird, because I was like, probably, to put it in context, I probably had about 900 Instagram followers or something like that. never been on TV before. The next minute they're doing a pay-per-view, and it sounds a little bit big-headed saying this, but they were Sky Sports were using our program to kind of make it out like, look at all this training that Kel's doing. Look at him, he's got a chance, because everybody was writing him off. And everyone just thought he was going to get smashed. But they overemphasized like kind of the strength and conditioning and the sports science that he was doing, to a point where it was actually mentioned in the press conference, and people asking Golovkin's team, what do you make of his sports science training and everything like that. And I was on Sky Sports News, which is a massive like kind of news station, and it was strange times. So like kind of were taking it all in a stride at the time, and just treating it like a job. The task was in hand. They weren't getting like kind of hyped up. But like looking back, I just think, wow, like, especially when it doesn't happen too often in your career, you look back and think, that was absolutely massive. And I was only 25 years old as well.
You're young. I mean, it's always fun. It's always fun, like, because I get the countdown show that comes on for a lot of the UFC guys, and now I've done enough to where it's like I know the routine. But when I first did it, I was like, oh, okay. So, and then we had to make sure everything was perfect. Now they're like just a kind of like a fly on the wall in a sense, you know, when you do as much as you do. And that's a testament to the team that we have, you know what I mean? But the great thing is that you're getting recognition for what you do. You're putting in the hard work, and then people are actually seeing that and getting some benefit out of that too as well. And that's what you do with BoxingScience. Now, with BoxingScience, how did that come about? Like, I know you were working with the athletes and you decided to develop this system and the membership and all of that. Now, why did you decide to do that? Was it something that you had planned, or it just came out when you were getting all these boxers together?
It kind of was, it kind of came about after working with quite a few different boxers. I was doing like some online blogs when I was just coming through, like practicing my writing, practicing doing videos. That were about 2012, 2013. Some of them articles were a little bit amateurish when I look back, but it was good because I was practicing on how to write and how to get my message across, and being reflective on my training methods at the same time, and give me a bit of a head start when I was launching something that has the potential to be bigger. So I was all into doing stuff online, getting my message across, and it were a natural move whilst I'm working with all these boxers to start off BoxingScience. And one of my main objectives with BoxingScience is to have an impact on the sport. It's not just working with athletes and to work with athletes that are in my area. I saw boxing as a sport that needed that strength and conditioning, that intervention in sports science. I've been working in football, in rugby league, in golf, where there's these kind of systems in place, and they're getting the younger athletes are getting developed from a very early age. Whereas in England, the boxers don't see a strength and conditioning coach unless they're on the GB boxing team.
Wow.
And there's only 20 on the GB boxing team, and there's thousands, tens of thousands of amateur boxers that need that athletic development. So the only way now to do that is getting your message out there through social media, through online, and being able to share that research. Also, we do our research at Sheffield University, and name me 10 boxing coaches that will go and read a sports science journal article. You probably struggle. You've got to find a different way on how to communicate the message. Yeah, you might not have the correct references and the correct R values to share, but you're getting the message across to help benefit the industry, because there's not enough strength and conditioning coaches out there to be in the amateur boxing gyms to develop these kids from a very early age. These kids have probably not got enough money to afford a strength and conditioning coach. So we need to help educate the coaches to develop safe and effective strength and conditioning methods in the gyms to make the sport better on whole. So that's the reason why I started BoxingScience, and I started doing like articles on a range of different subjects, and then Instagram, Facebook became bigger and bigger and bigger. So I started doing a lot of my social media content on there, doing like different videos and everything like that. And then over the last year, we've developed our website, and the amount of traffic that goes onto our website is absolutely massive. I couldn't believe it, because I was so focused on Instagram and doing the videos and doing YouTube videos as well. I kind of neglected the website a little bit and didn't see the importance of it. But I can't believe how many kind of hits that gets without me sharing anything across social media. So it provides a strong foundation for us doing anything for our programs or anything like that, because everything was like a little bit all over the place as well. Like we were selling online programs on a separate online portal. So we had to kind of redevelop it to bring it all in, to bring it all on brand. And we did a massive redevelopment last year where we've got the BoxingScience membership. This is like the Netflix of sports science for boxing. We've got a load of different video workshops, mainly from ourselves, but obviously we've got guest speakers. We've got yourself on there. We've got Duncan French and Bo Sandoval from the UFC Performance Institute. We've got some UK strength and conditioning coaches working with some top professional boxers, and it's a fantastic hub of information. So if anybody wants to get on that, there's a 7-day free trial. You can try it. There's no contracts. See whether it's your thing, and you can cancel it after 7 days if it's not your thing. So just go and check that out and see what we're about at BoxingScience.
All right. So before we get ahead of ourselves, now you talk about social media, right? And I know you put a lot of good information on Instagram. Somebody DM'd me earlier. I think was it last night or maybe this morning? I don't know. My days get blended together when you have 18, 19-hour days. But so I wanted to talk to you about this one. You just put up a recent post about, does lifting weights make you slow for boxing? Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, so that post was about basically the myth, or what people call a myth. Do weights make you slow for boxing? And instead of just totally discounting it, you've got to admit that if you train like a bodybuilder, if you train like a power lifter all the time, then that will make you slow for boxing. So you've got to make sure that your strength training methods are working towards the purpose of the sport, and that's increasing the rate of force development. Because we know at BoxingScience, we've done our research where the rate of force development is a massive contributor to punching speed, punching strength. And we've also done our testing battery where we found that the higher that you can jump, will correlate with punch power. So the higher you can jump, the harder you can punch. So we need to make sure that our strength and conditioning methods work towards that purpose. That doesn't mean that you do loads of reps on chest press and do bicep curls and everything like that. So that's the reason why I put a post like that, because one, it gets attention. Two, it's a massive question that people want to know. And three, you've got to kind of dispel that, what is a myth, because if you do strength training in the right way, it's going to benefit performance. But if you do it in the wrong way, it can end up making you slow.
Yeah, it's all context in all that is dependent upon the individual, like always. But for what we see is that, yes, there's certain times where you need to do some type of bodybuilding, hypertrophy type movements to, whether it be increase some lagging muscles that need to be brought up. Not so much for boxing. At some points, yes, they need that. But again, you do need absolute strength that can potentiate into explosive power.
Yeah.
All that stuff there is crucial. That's kind of the reason why I adopted the conjugate style of an approach with all of my fighters, primarily because we are working both sides of that force velocity curve throughout the time that we need to. Now, with that being said, I want to get your take on it. What are your go-to exercises for increasing punching power? And there's a lot of things, obviously, ballistics, plyometrics. What's kind of like your go-to? I know you do a lot with the landmine. Just go ahead and go into that.
Yeah, so the go-to exercises, I got asked this the other day, what my non-negotiable exercises are. And there's no non-negotiable exercises, because we've always got to adapt around the athlete that we're working with, what access to facilities that we have, what's going to be appropriate to them. So we're always working towards a non-negotiable purpose, which is improving the rate of force development and transferring that into punching action. Main exercises that I use a trap bar deadlift. I find that boxers are really tight around their shoulders, and they're unable to kind of keep that scapular retraction to make sure that they're keeping nice straight posture, especially when they go to heavier loads. So we find that the trap bar deadlift is a much safer exercise to use, but a more effective one as well, because you're able to load it up a lot more. We use that in a few different ways. So we can use it for maximum strength. Sometimes we go over maximum strength and we use partial range lifts, which I find really beneficial, because this is unlocking their maximum strength capabilities without putting them at risk of driving it up deadlift from the floor at really heavy weight. So it's kind of unlocking their ability to produce maximum force, because that's what we've got to try and do, because boxing is very different to MMA. Boxing has a low strength training history, like we're saying. The reason why we got into boxing and wanting to spread the word of boxing science, they're not seen as strength and conditioning coach until they're past their teenage years, maybe like 20, 21 when they become a professional boxer. So with that low strength training history, even though they might be quite strong in the ring, they don't know how to express that force in a strength and conditioning gym. So using partial range lifts can help overload and can help increase max strength, but can also try and unlock that kind of potential to lift heavier weights. And also we work down that force velocity continuum, working on strength speed, using velocity based training, giving them some feedback to lift with maximum intent and speed. And then we transition that into trap bar jumps. So if we're working strength, speed, strength, we always use like some sort of jumping exercise, because we want to jump higher so then we can punch harder. So trap bar jumps is a massive exercise that we use, and that's the reason why we use trap bar deadlift as one of our key exercises, because we can manipulate the volumes and intensities quite easily, working across that continuum. Also like Olympic lifting, but I use variations. I don't use full variations, because we're saying about the shoulders, but they're taking a lot of impact through their wrists and elbows. So we don't want to increase the likelihood of injury. Also, there's high technical demand as well. So this will limit the amount of adaptation that they can make during the crucial stages of training camp. So that's why we go for like clean pulls. And then we're saying about the landmines. We do, with this, all we're talking about is rate of force development, developing force and maximum intent through strength and conditioning exercises. But what we want to do is be able to transfer that through the kinetic chain from lower body, hips, core, all the way through to the fist. So we need to help teach that as well. So we use landmine punches, landmine punch throw, medicine ball punch throw, and a lot of your exercises that we had on the workshop in London, all the medicine ball throws. That's been a massive contributing factor to our recent programs as well. Learning how to you can train like a power lifter. You can increase that maximum force, that intent, but then it's all about how to transfer that into punching action. And I think that's what we both do very well. And the exercises that I took from your workshop was definitely boosted my program.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was great to hear. So yeah, like I said, like getting a person strong and then having the ability to display that strength as fast as possible is key.
Yeah.
Now I got a question here from Instagram, from United Boxing WPG. He says, between MMA, boxing, elite athletes, compare Junior Dos Santos with Anthony Joshua, ramp ups. I don't know. And then he says, it looks like Phil uses more heavyweights towards the peak of training, which I actually don't. I told him I didn't.
Okay.
But I guess he's trying to ask, what is your peaking method for those types of boxers, whether it be, like larger men, heavyweights, things like that?
I haven't trained many heavyweights.
Yeah.
The only heavyweight that I've trained Dave Howe, which was one of my first ever boxers that I trained, which it was 6'8" heavyweight.
Damn.
So learned a lot of lessons about how to train tall athletes when I was relatively inexperienced. Also trained Derek Chisora, who is one of Britain's favourite boxers. He fought for a world title many years ago, but he's been in some wars. He's a good, and he's a massive character as well. If you've got time, Phil, during lockdown, check out Derek Chisora's like press conference highlights.
Okay.
And you see him in some controversial moments. So I had him in the gym, and I think like keeping some sort of like force and tension is important with the big guys throughout the program, because they want to feel strong when they're dealing with their heavyweight opponents. But I still like kind of focus on like kind of developing that strength speed, working down the program. But you're saying about the conjugate method, and Duncan French used like a ladder method where basically the priorities change. And at the start, when our training is over, at the start, max strength was key, and then it was about strength speed. But then that tension, that core tension coming through the posterior shoulders, through core, kind of change into like their core training. So we're doing like a lot of stability training here, a lot of core training, like plank rows, rotational planks, pull off press. All the stability exercises, which are like body weight or low load, and then that goes into more stability, higher load. So like your farmer carries, your unilateral farmer walks. So they're still having that kind of the feeling of that heavy weight through a different kind of scenario. So getting that stimulus, but still working on that, being able to work on strength speed, because even though they're heavyweights, you still want them to be tapering down effectively. You want them to be feeling fast and strong, but also you want them to be feeling that invincibility. They're able to carry a heavy weight, tense up all the body, be tight in them clinches as well.
I like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, and you're scaling up the contralateral or the isometric movements, or like you would say, anti-rotation, anti-flexion movements. A lot of guys get stuck in just doing like the baseline of like bird dogs forever, and they don't scale it up and get better, get stronger with those specific means. I love carries. I love strongman type implements. We have a ton of it now here at my gym, and we'll dedicate a full day to it, especially just for GPP in general and maintaining fitness. Obviously, I taper off getting closer to the fight, but we want to make sure we're maintaining at least a solid level of general fitness throughout the entire year. All right, so next question. Hope that answers your question. So next question is again from Instagram. He writes, okay, could you ask him if you ever trained a boxer that was at the same time strong and punches hard. But often you see guys like Ward who are super strong but not necessarily powerful. And then you got guys like Kovalev who hits hard but not the strongest guy in the world. Why is it so rare to find both?
Wow. How long's a piece of string? Yeah, it's difficult. We use like load velocity profiles to see how an athlete performs at different loads, whether they're we call it either tanks or Ferraris. So you've got somebody that is like a tank that is like really strong, but not that explosive. They kind of like goes down like that. Then you've got somebody that is like a Ferrari. They're really, really fast, but as soon as they get to heavy weight, they kind of fall off the side of the mountain. So then they need to develop strength. The tanks maybe need to develop speed. However, you get some athletes, Kell Brook being one of them, which is just like strong across the board. So we have like different methods. We have either load velocity profile for trap bar deadlift. We do it for like a bench press or bench press throw. We also do it for the squat, but we also do it with the landmine. And this is something that the UFC Performance Institute is actually utilizing with their athletes as well, where we can see whether an athlete in a punch specific action, how they compare a lighter load and a heavier load. And this kind of indicates to us what kind of area of strength conditioning that they need to do in terms of like punch specific work and from a general standpoint as well. With punching power, I got asked the other day, why does Golovkin hit so hard? And he looks like he doesn't particularly look as muscular as other athletes. Thing is, with punchers, they come in all different shapes and sizes. There's no kind of one size fits all. You look at the heavyweight division at the moment, you've got Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz and Dillian White. They all look totally different. Totally different body composition, different reach, different height, and they all punch hard. They all got knockouts on their record. So there's lots of different contributing factors to being a puncher. I think the main thing is what we do, Phil, is not in terms of we create punchers. We help unlock somebody's potential to become a puncher. They've got the technique, they've got the skill, they've got the timing. We're putting the force behind that to give them the potential to become a puncher in the ring. I think that's an important factor. So when they see like Deontay Wilder not doing any strength and conditioning but can knock a horse out, then that doesn't sit well for strength and conditioning, does it? But with strength and conditioning, we've got to just maintain the message of we're unlocking people's potential to be able to become a puncher.
I think a lot of people get that misconception. They're like, well, punchers are born and they're not made, and a lot of guys with limb lengths, and you got precision also plays a big role in that too as well, because I know Dustin can crack, and he's not the biggest guy ever, and he's not really the strongest guy ever, but again, he can put you on your ass. So with that, it makes a lot of sense from a physical preparation standpoint. We always have to understand that we're trying to give them the physical capabilities to do their sport optimally, right? To let them express their skills as adequately as possible, give them the conditioning, the power, the strength, endurance, all of that. And we're not miracle workers, and we're not supposed to be driving specificity all year round either, which a lot of people think that that's what you have to do. And you also have to simulate what you're doing in the ring or in the cage in the weight room, and that's totally false. So guys, just word of advice on that one. Next question. All right, this one's kind of long. I'm gonna try to speed it up a little bit, but
okay.
All right. So how do you periodize the S&C training during all year, or throughout the year, I guess he was trying to say. And then what kind of strength, speed, and endurance training you work in each macro cycle or mesocycle distribution and phases. Go ahead and answer that one first, because he's got like 4 of them.
Okay, cool. So in terms of like periodization, I just use block periodization when I'm working different physiological adaptations at different times, working like maximum strength, speed, strength, and that tapers off towards a fight. Now, you're saying about how to train an athlete all year. This depends on who the athlete is. If it's an amateur boxer, they have set championships where we can help taper off for more important championships. So if we're working with England boxing or GB boxing, they'll be like, for at the moment, well, we don't work with GB boxing, so let's say the GB boxing S&C coach should be looking to taper off for Olympic qualifiers, then the Olympics themselves. Whereas, and there's set dates for that, obviously not at the moment, but during a 4-year cycle, you've got your World Championships, European Championships, your qualifiers, and then Olympics, and you're looking to try and taper for them. And this is very set structure, so you get the dates in advance, and you're able to set out a year program. However, with professional boxers, all that plan goes out the window. They might be fighting in 8 weeks' time, they might be fighting in 12 weeks, sometimes they might be fighting in 6 weeks. You've just got to have a plan in place, but be adaptable. And you've got to be recognizing what they did the previous camp and where you want to be in the next camp. So if you've got a prospect that is fighting a 4-rounder or a 6-rounder, you can plan on what you want to work on each camp. So if you're working with a championship level fighter, we've got to be focusing on the adaptations that we want for that camp. So we talk with the boxing coach, talk with the boxer themselves, what is going to be the challenge in this camp and where do we want to be on fight night? You know, what kind of fight are we going to be fighting? Is it going to be, are you going to be looking to knock this guy out in 5 rounds? Or are you expecting to be going the 12 rounds? All right, if you're expecting to be going the 12 rounds, we've got to make sure that we're optimizing our fitness. If we're going to be working on the outside, we're going to be wanting to work on more central adaptations. If we're going to be working in fast bursts and looking to really put it on this guy and put the pressure on, we're going to be working more muscle buffering. So we look at what the end goal is, and then we reverse engineer from there. So we plan kind of each block, thinking, right, what feeds into this, what feeds into this. And actually, like, we did this with Callum Beardo. He's a prospect boxer. He's only had 2 fights, and he got the nod to be fighting on a big Sky Sports show in Sheffield, and he had 6 weeks to prepare. So we were like, right, what exercises and what methods do we want to implement right at the on fight week and the week before, and we reverse engineered everything from that. And I've got some great clips of that which I'm going to be posting on YouTube and Instagram in the next few days, where we're seeing exactly what we're doing in preparation phase, and then what we're doing at the taper, and how, like, kind of biomechanically similar they are, and showing the importance of reverse engineering. So hopefully I've answered that question in some sort of form.
I mean, I think you did. I feel like you did. I hope he understood that one. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. What about your energy system training as far as in each microcycle? Are you doing like a high-low method? Or are you just running it through like block style, getting closer to the fight? How is that being done?
Yeah, so this really depends on what they've done in each block. So with a pro fighter, we'd be looking at what energy systems we developed in the last block, and look to try and change that the type of running that we're going to be doing in this block, and then we try and have a cyclic nature. So, for example, our 30-second max out sprints, we don't do that every camp, because if we did that every camp, we'd only see minimal increases in performance. We kind of like need to go and develop probably max speed, max force expression, to then transfer that into the 30-second max sprint performance. If we did that every camp, we'd only see 1% changes. That's not what we want to see when we use this, because it takes so much out of an athlete. And then you've seen the video yourself, Phil, and obviously used it with your athletes.
Yep, I have.
It absolutely kills them, and you're having a massive impact on the rest of their training. you want to get that maximum reward out of it. So if we use that every time, then we're not maximizing that reward. So we have three main pillars. We have central, peripheral, and we also have our muscle buffering. So we mentioned muscle buffering, which sits in the middle of central and peripheral. So talk about central, which is more of our high intensity interval training, when we're looking to increase the volume and intensity that we can produce whilst working in the red zone. So that's 90% maximum heart rate. So a typical session of this would be something like 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off, for between 4 and 6 repetitions. And our athletes run anywhere between 15 to 18 kilometers 15 to 18 kilometers an hour. And then at the total other end, we use sprint interval training for peripheral adaptations. So this is 30 seconds max out efforts with 3 minutes total recovery. And this is basically what this is doing is increasing the amount of lactate that's in your muscles. And this is stimulating, it's depleting the muscle cell of all its energy. And it's stimulating the signaling pathways to help our body, our muscle, be able to extract and utilize energy, and basically increase mitochondrial biogenesis. So this will help improve aerobic capacity. So even though we're doing 30 seconds of running, 3 minutes total recovery, in total, our first session with an athlete doing this is just 2 minutes of running. So you're saying to a boxer that's coming into your program for the first time, right, we're going to just do 2 minutes of running today. They're like, what? Scratching their head. Oh, this is going to be easy. And then we say, right, you try and hit this number and then try and keep it above this number. And then they're like, wow, unbelievable. And our boxers, even though they absolutely hate the session, they love the benefits from it. And we're talking about that extract and utilization of energy. We try and do this at the start of camp because this is providing a strong foundation for what we call the delivery phase, which is our central adaptations. So we're then delivering oxygen to the working muscles. Our muscles have become more efficient at extracting that oxygen and using it for energy. So it's important that we do the 30-second maximal sprints first, because we're creating that adaptation to make this delivery phase more effective. So that's probably how we'd manage it in a 10-week camp, and then we'd go on to doing a taper phase. But that's not the blueprint of every single training camp that we do. We change it to keep pushing our athletes on further.
Now, in the tapering phase, are you doing anything alactic, or are you maintaining any type of aerobic capacity work in that time frame, or is it just basically doing their sport and sparring and getting that work in?
Yeah, so it all depends on what they've done. So if they've done our muscle buffering phase of 12 seconds on, 48 seconds off, we can transition them into some neuromuscular work. So we do something like 10-second max out sprints with 3 minutes recovery. Or if they haven't been doing that and they've been doing more longer conditioning methods, so the high intensity interval training, if we just suddenly go into doing them 10-second sprints, that's increasing the likelihood of overreaching and possibly injury as well. If you go to an athlete who's in prime condition now, they go and run as fast as they can on the curve, the likelihood of them pulling up with a hamstring injury is high. So we're not wanting to do that. So we're then going to probably some Tabata work, some very low volume work, increasing that intensity, and then just some active recovery work with like being in green zone, like sitting around about 60% maximum heart rate, and getting some speed into the legs at a low intensity, just for a calorie burner, just to make sure that they're losing weight. So we do that around about 2 weeks out from fight. So the week preceding fight week, that's when we start really tapering off the conditioning. We've got to know, you know yourself, Phil, you've got loads of different sessions that you have to battle with, especially when you're getting towards the end of camp. and we want our athletes to thrive in them final sessions. So we deload them massively. A main thing that we do during them sparring phases where they're sparring 8, 10, maybe 12 rounds, we put them in the altitude tent. So this is reducing their ability to run fast, but still increasing that time in the red zone. We're still getting them cardiovascular gains, but they're not being too fatigued from the running at a slower pace. So when they're in the tent, they find it really hard. But when they get out of the tent, they think, "Wow, actually, I feel all right," and they're not sore in their legs, they're not sore through their joints, they're not fatigued going into their sparring. So, obviously, not everyone's got access to an altitude tent, but you've got to look at different ways that you can optimize performance without having too much impact on their technical training side.
Yeah, that's usually the reasoning why we started to use breath holds in the training itself, and I also seen that when we increased the ability to nasal breathe, was giving the opportunity for the athlete to bring their body back down to parasympathetic faster. So they understood how to diaphragmatic breathe through their spine or through their lumbar spine, and it helped everything kind of regulate. And it wasn't as, like you said, like they think it's shit as they're doing it, but they don't get as sore the next day. They're like, oh man, I could do it again. That's awesome. All right, so I always ask these 2 questions for every guest. All right, so make it a good one, Danny.
Okay, I'll try.
So the first one I always ask, and every successful person that I've come across and myself in general has a morning routine. So I always ask the guests, what is their morning routine? Go ahead, floor is yours on that one.
Just overload on coffee.
I hear you on that one.
Yeah. It's hard to say what my morning routine is at the moment because it's on lockdown. Motivation is going a little bit up and down. I'm normally like in the gym quite early on. So obviously, and I also live about 45 minutes away from the gym. So I don't have too much time to get my routine. But the main thing that I do is make sure that I'm hydrated. So I fill up my keg. So I've got a 2-litre keg here. I fill that up and I try and hydrate as best as I can, because if you are in the gym, so my typical morning looks like this. I get up about 5:45 a.m, get changed, get showered, get some coffee in me, and then I set off around about 6:30. I'm in the gym for 7:15, and then I've got back-to-back sessions until 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. So if I'm just going straight on coffee, I haven't got time to drink and everything like that, I'm going to be flagging by the end at 12 o'clock. So I just make sure that I'm prepared with my food, my nutrition, my hydration to give me the best possible start to the day. So I don't really do anything like breathing or cold showers or reflective practice or anything like that. I just prepare my body physically as best as I can to make sure that I'm mentally switched on during the sessions.
Yeah, that's all you really need, as long as it works for you. You know what I mean? It keeps you on a steady path to success that day. I feel like everybody doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm doing my breath work here and I'm doing, you need to find something that's very manageable for you and then just keep that thing going, because you're a creature of habit, and then you can keep that positivity going throughout the day,
Yeah, absolutely. When you see people like Tony Robbins doing a cold plunge bath, you're thinking, right, that's what I need to get.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? One of my partners actually sent me a link to that video last night about his cold plunges and his 10-minute breathing. I'm not opposed to that. I do breath work too as well. I do like cold tubs. Not every morning. One thing I will say that I do is I get my conditioning or my cardio in very early in the morning, because let's face it, I got too much going on throughout the day for me to stop and do that. So, All right. So
I think, I was just going to add on the way to work, I make sure that I put on some sort of podcast to get me firing, to get my mind engaged as well. because if you just listen to the radio or listen to some music, you can just drift off and daydream on your way to work. Whereas like you're feeding your brain as soon as you can in the morning to get yourself switched on.
Yeah, we both have pretty long drives to our gym, so that I do that all the time. I feel like that's one of the things. It's one of the advantages I have right there over everybody else is that I have a 90-minute drive to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm getting that in as much as I can. I probably finish an audio book a week, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the fact that I'm driving so much. But
yeah,
we use the time wisely. All right. So the second question is going to be the last one, and because the podcast is called Daru Strong. And strong, in my opinion, means many things. So for you, I want to give you the opportunity to tell us, what does a strong person mean to you?
That's a tough one, that. That's a tough one.
Everybody says that.
Yeah. I think, like, during this lockdown, I've kind of been reflecting on quite a few different things. And, you know, I've been quite happy with how I've like kind of manage that. And I think like in terms of strength, obviously you want to be a role model to others, but you've got to kind of be open as well. You know, with this lockdown, it's been like a lot of negativity. It's, you know, I'm out of the gym, and if I didn't have my online business, I wouldn't be able to earn anything. And you could be looking at it a really negative way, but I think that a strong person has something negative, but doesn't bury the head in the sand. They kind of look at what are the positives out of that negative and try and change that negative into a positive situation. And in your career, you're going to have haters, you're going to have people that disagree with you, and you're going to have a lot of setbacks as well. You've got to trust in your own process. You've got to take on some critiques on board. Sometimes your critiques aren't going to be as useful, or you know, you can ignore, but some are going to be useful for you to move forward. And always be like kind of focused on what your goals are. When I first started out doing this, I said earlier, I started doing a blog in 2012. I weren't ready for that. So what that brought was a lot of people taking the mick. That means like make a joke out of you. I don't know whether you use that term in America, but no, sorry, taking the mick. That's a polite way of saying it. But the naysayers basically, and that could have crushed me at that time. That was a very, very sensitive period. Also had like my eye set on like few jobs. I've got loads of setbacks there, didn't make the grade. You're going to have these setbacks throughout your career. And I think your ability to learn and reflect and move forward and keep working towards your goal, I think that is a definition of a strong person, because when you see somebody as strong, you see them as like kind of invincible with no weaknesses. But I see a strong person of having weaknesses, having setbacks, but having the ability to overcome it. I don't know about you, Phil, but you're fantastic on video and everything. Where was you 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Were you as developed as you are now?
No, not at all. No. Not at all. I would say I look back at some videos that I've done 5 years ago, and I can't even really watch it. Like I just like, you know. Yeah. So it does take persistent practice and making sure that you always are progressing. And for me, like I've had a huge amount of setbacks throughout my life, you know, and for that and where I came from humbled me and got me to the understanding of it's never really over until you win, pretty much, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna take that from my man. What was the motivational speaker? What's his name?
Eric Thomas?
No.
Les Brown.
Les Brown. I'm gonna take it from Les Brown. It's not over until you win, baby. It's not over until you win. Honestly, that's how I live my life. But that was something that I always like to ask. And I always get a pause, right? But then everybody comes out with like the greatest explanation of what they feel is so important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt like I rambled on and went through. My life was flashing before my eyes whilst I was going through all the setbacks, and surprised I didn't start crying.
I mean, if you get to really feel like, okay, yeah, I know this person now. You know what I mean? That's why I like to ask that question for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, like you're saying, like, what is the definition of strong? People see it as this big positive character, but invincible. But a lot of strong people have been through a hell of a load of setbacks. It's all about how they come back from that.
For sure. Yeah. All right.
Fantastic.
Well, before we go, I want you to shout out social media. Make sure you follow this man. Follow BoxingScience. Go ahead. The floor is yours. Name them all out.
Well, I've got 3 Instagram pages at the moment. So I've got my main page, which is Wilson_BoxingScience. We've also got BoxingScience, and we've also got RedZoneRunning, which is basically a page dedicated to high-intensity interval training. A load of different free runs for you. So if you want to challenge yourself during lockdown, go ahead to RedZoneRunning. We've also got a YouTube channel, BoxingScience. We also just started the BoxingScience podcast. And we've got our online memberships, BoxingScience.co.uk. Like I said earlier, it's a 7-day free trial. So try it out. If you like it, stay with us. We've got a load of different content, video workshops, exercise library, weekly workouts. If you don't like it, you can cancel it and just have a look at our free content. We've got a range of different articles on there: strength and conditioning, nutrition, psychology, stuff specific to boxing performance. We also do like analysis of Canelo's training and Anthony Joshua's training as well. We've got everything under one roof, really. So, yeah,
covering all aspects. I highly recommend this guy's programs. Make sure you check him out. Make sure you go follow him. Thanks again, Danny, for coming on. I hope I didn't take too much of your time, bro. And my name is Phil Daru. That's Danny Wilson. BoxingScience, and we're out.